Something lands in your account this week, and you have basically been frozen ever since. A work bonus. $12,000, way bigger than you expected. And you know exactly what you are supposed to do with it. Put it in your index fund and leave it alone. But every time you go to click the button, you close the app instead. So it just sits there in cash, doing nothing, while you stare at it. Because here is the thought that keeps stopping you. What if you put the whole thing in today, and the market drops tomorrow? So maybe you should spread it out, $1,000 a month over the next year. That just feels safer. Here is what I am not going to do. I am not going to tell you it will be fine, and I am not going to hand you a feeling. I am going to hand you a number. Because someone already ran your exact dilemma against decades of market history. Give me about a minute, and it is yours. And fair warning, it points the opposite way from what your gut is screaming right now. Because spreading it out has to be the safe move, right? Smaller bites, less risk. That is what almost everyone assumes. Here is what the data actually shows. Vanguard went back over decades of market history in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia, and tested the exact two moves you are weighing. Dropping the whole lump in at once, versus easing it in over a year. Putting it all in at once won about 2 out of every 3 times. 2/3 of the time, going all in beat playing it safe. And it was not a squeaker. On average, the all-at-once investor finished ahead by a little over 2% in that first year. Now, you are right to push back, because 2/3 means 1 time in 3, it lost. That is real. 1 time in 3, the market dipped right after, and easing in came out ahead. Invest the day before a downturn, and spreading it out wins, no argument. But notice what that really means. This was never all in versus careful. It is invest versus sit in cash. And sitting in cash is the move that quietly costs the most. In almost every version, both investors finished far ahead of the person still waiting for a perfect moment that never came. Waiting is the expensive part. If you have got a chunk of cash frozen in your account right now, because clicking the button feels reckless, this next part is for you. Subscribe, so the calm answer finds you the next time your gut tries to talk you out of a good decision. Because there is a reason all at once wins, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. I call it the windfall rule, and the engine behind it is almost boringly simple. The market spends most of its life going up. Stocks have finished a year higher in roughly 3 years out of every 4. I know, it rarely feels that way. But that is the record. So think about what spreading it out really means. Every month your money waits its turn in cash. It is sitting out of a market that, more often than not, is climbing. You are not dodging risk. You are trading away expected gains for the feeling of being careful. Easing in is not safer. It is just slower to start earning. Vanguard said it best. When the money is already yours, dollar cost averaging does not lower the risk. It just takes that same risk later. Or, as John Bogle put it, time is your friend, impulse is your enemy. Cash on the sidelines is impulse wearing a sensible coat. And do not wave off that 2% is small. On $12,000, yes, it is only a couple $100 that first year. But that head start rides along every year after, compounding on a slightly bigger base. The gap does not stay small. That is the real price of a year spent easing in. Now, maybe you are thinking, but what about right now? Everything feels expensive and shaky. Does not that change the math? It feels like it should. But that is the timing trap, and it catches the professionals too. Warren Buffett says the only value of market forecasters is to make fortune tellers look good. Nobody knows what the market does next month. Expensive and shaky has been the mood in plenty of years that finished green. So waiting for the dust to settle is just timing the market with extra steps. And the dust never fully settles. There is always a reason to wait. So much of this comes down to not flinching. Benjamin Graham said it plainly: the investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. The all-at-once math was settled decades ago. The hard part was never the spreadsheet. It is the hand hovering over the button. All right, devil's advocate. Is spreading it out ever the right call, or is it always the worst move? Here is where I will defend your instinct. Morgan Housel makes a point I love. The goal is not the choice that is mathematically perfect. It is the one you can actually live with. If putting all 12,000 in today means you will panic and sell the second it drops 10%, then easing in earns its keep. Because it stops you from doing the one thing that actually loses money. Selling in fear. You are paying a small price, a slightly lower expected return, for a steadier hand. For some people, that trade is well worth it. Just name it honestly. It is a behavior cushion, not a smarter bet. Now, you might be wondering about the money you invest automatically from each paycheck. Is not that spreading it out too? It is, and it is wonderful. Keep doing it. But notice the difference. With your paycheck, you invest the money the day it arrives, because that is when you have it, not holding any back. The windfall rule is only about a lump you already have, sitting in cash while you work up the nerve. Money you have today belongs in the market today, if it is truly long-term money. And that is the whole guardrail. If that 12,000 is your emergency fund, or the deposit for a house next spring, none of this applies. That money stays in cash, full stop. The windfall rule is for the long game, not next year's rent. So here is the actual rule. 2 questions. First, is this money you will not need for at least 5 years? If it is not, it stays in cash, and we are done. If it is long-term money, second question. If you put it all in today and it dropped 15% next week, do you trust yourself to sit still and not sell? If that is a clear yes, invest the whole thing. The odds are on your side. And if you are honestly not sure, then do not force it. Split the difference. Invest half today, and the other half on a set date 3 months out. Not 12 nervous months. One clean halfway step. It captures most of the edge and still lets you sleep. Because the perfect plan you cannot stick to loses to the good one you can. Buffett barely trades. He calls the patience to just sit there one of the most underrated skills in investing. Make one calm decision, then leave it alone. So let me lock this in. 1. Putting a lump sum in all at once beats spreading it out about 2 out of 3 times, because the market is usually climbing. 2. Easing in is not safer, it is just slower to start. You are trading real gains for comfort. 3. Spreading it out is only worth it as insurance against your own panic, and you should call it exactly that. And 4. All of this is for long-term money only. Your emergency fund does not move. And honestly, the fact that you stopped to ask instead of freezing forever, that is the temperament that builds wealth. It was never the click. It is the calm behind it. So if this untangled a knot you have been sitting with, send it to the one friend you know with cash frozen in their account too. And subscribe, not for hype, but so the next money decision finds you calm instead of stuck. Calm investors. Build wealth with patience, not panic.